How is it that some people stand out in life and become heroes to the rest of us? People whose lives make an impact on thousands of other lives for good.
I have a dream today.
If there were ever an unlikely breeding ground for heroes, it would have been America's Watergate scandal of the early 1970s. Chuck Colson, the president's former counsel, the media called him Richard Nixon's hatchet man. Chuck's conversion led him to plead guilty to a Watergate-related crime.
I committed my life to Jesus Christ. I can work for the Lord in prison or out of prison.
The man who had fought his way to the top found peace and fulfillment when he went from being a self-made man to becoming a God-made man.
And after 7 months in federal prison, I discovered that I could not easily shut prison out of my mind as I thought about the lonely faces of the men I'd left behind.
So in 1976, Chuck started Prison Fellowship, now the world's largest ministry to prisoners, ex-prisoners, and their families, bringing the transforming hope of the gospel to prisons across the United States and in more than 100 countries around the world.
The problem is not education, the problem is not poverty, the problem is not race, the problem is the breakdown of moral values in American life.
Exactly right.
And the criminal justice system can't respond.
Chuck became increasingly concerned that for many, Christianity was simply about a person's individual relationship with God, a Sunday morning slice of life. Such a privatized view lacked the robust passion and culture-changing power of biblical Christianity.
Christians have to care deeply about worldview. God saved us for a purpose, and that purpose is to redeem the fallen culture for God.
Over the years, the consequence of Chuck's laser focus on biblical worldview became books, radio programs, videos, and a toolbox of resources that stimulated and equipped the hearts and minds of generations of believers. In 2004, Chuck started the Centurions program, mentoring 100 men and women per year in a Christian worldview. Chuck was a mentor to many. He knew that widespread cultural change doesn't happen through government or bureaucratic means, but from what C.S. Lewis called the, quote, good infection. The gospel passed from person to person to person. So Chuck invested himself in people. As formidable as Chuck's intellect was, his heart and passion for Christ were stronger. His views on the dignity and exquisite value of every human life, for example, were not just theological constructs. He lived them out in flesh and blood relationships. Chuck Colson. A life of transformation, godly heroism, and yes, holy urgency, typified in one of his most basic resolutions.
I will live every day as if it's my last, knowing by God's grace and love the Savior waits for me beyond the grave.